Selamat siang, good afternoon. Welcome back to another Bali COVID-19 update. My name is Bruce and this is Wednesday, October 13th, 2021, and the day before the alleged opening of Bali to international flights. And so there is a lot to cover today, and as usual I've had to cut out a bunch of stuff. Some of the segments are going to sound very similar, and the reason for that is because there are slight differences in each one, and so I hope to be able to highlight those so that you can see that there's a lot of hands in the pie here, and well, doesn't always make out for a good pie. So let's take a look at the numbers first. The numbers are really good. Again, the 7-day average for new positive cases down to 48. We're under 50. Okay, and deaths, 7-day average for deaths, 3. Okay, wow. Great news. Nationally, number of new positive cases, 1,261. And deaths, 47? Wow, okay. And total individuals tested for all of Indonesia, 190,403 with a 0.66 positive rate. 7-day average positivity rate is 0.66. And so, more good news on numbers. What about Bali with testing? In the last 7 days, Bali's tested 42,847 people, and that gives us the achievement rate of 154.73% and a 7-day positivity rate of 0.87. And that is way down from the other day. And what about those all-important vaccination numbers? First dose, 3,372,294, 75.5% of the population. And second dose, 2,828,136, 63.3% of the population. Fully vaccinated. And as I mentioned in the next segment, vaccinations are ongoing. They were being given yesterday here in Kampung Bugis and over in Kampung Kajanan. And additional doses yesterday, 13,224. And what about the numbers in Bali yesterday? New cases, 46. Deaths, 1. Active cases, 633. And I have no number on the recovered. So I don't know what happened to that. So numbers are looking good. And let's go on and talk about vaccines and vaccinations. And what about vaccines and vaccinations? Well, vaccinations are ongoing in Kampung Bugis today and in Kampung Kajanan, the neighboring kampung. There were announcements early this morning saying that vaccinations were being given out starting at 9 a.m. and continuing until finished. I guess that's until they've run out of vaccine or until people just stop showing up. Were there people there? Yeah. My granddaughter and I took a walk there. We had to go get shoes for her first day of school. More on that later. And yeah, there were people outside. And what about vaccines? Indonesia gets additional 2 million finished Pfizer vaccine doses. So Indonesia has received 2,700,000 doses of finished vaccines that will be distributed directly to 12 provinces. Currently, Indonesia has received 280,527,920 doses of vaccines in the form of semi-finished and finished goods, according to the spokesperson for the Health Ministry, Siti Nadia Tarmizi. The Pfizer vaccines arrived in 2 airports, Soekarno-Hatta and Juanda in Surabaya. The vaccines that arrived at Soekarno-Hatta will be dispersed to provincial health offices in Aceh, Bengkulu, East Nusa Tenggara, Jambi, and more. So around Indonesia in places where they need the vaccine. Vaccine that arrived in Juanda will be distributed in the East Java Provincial Health Office only. These vaccines are expected to help accelerate the vaccination process in areas of Indonesia that are remote and have not had full access to vaccines. And according to Ibu Tarmizi, she reminded the public to get vaccinated soon and don't be picky about the vaccine types, whether it's Pfizer's Sinovac, Moderna, AstraZeneca, or others. She said all of them are safe and effective. Like everybody else, she advised people to remain disciplined in implementing health protocols. She said vaccine is not the only way to protect ourselves against COVID-19. So it looks like there's been a rush to open up in October, right? All this was suddenly announced. We're going to open on the 14th, and it's going to be 8-day quarantine, then a 5-day quarantine, more of that to come. And too fast, too soon? Well, according to this article, the opening of Bali for foreigners is suggested to be tried first. So according to Griffith University epidemiologist Dickie Budiman, and we hear from him many times, and he's been a voice of caution throughout this situation. He's asked the government to conduct a trial before fully opening Bali to foreign tourists. He said the trial has to be proven to be effective in not causing new cases of COVID-19. He said in order to reopen Bali, we have to be at least PPKM level 2 or a month. Well, we're still at level 3, so we haven't even got to level 2 yet. So he's saying wait till we get to level 2 and stay there for a month before we do anything. According to Pak Budiman, in the trial, those who are allowed to enter Bali will be those who've received a complete dose of the vaccine. He said they should be coming from countries that have a maximum positivity rate of 5% and will need to be fully vaccinated. And that 3 days before they come, they will need to have a PCR test. And then when they arrive, they're going to need to have another PCR test. He also said that the Peduli Lindungi application must be able to accommodate foreign vaccine recipients so that foreign tourists can download it. And so that's been a problem, and the government is working on that. And he warned that if the trials are not carried out or not carried out fully, that there's the possibility of having problems once foreign tourists arrive in Bali. And he said it's best to wait for a month after a trial period before opening, and that should be a gradual easing in order to ensure that the COVID-19 trend is stable and continues to improve. And here is a link to something to see what's happened in the United States with COVID-19. Look at this. Isn't this fascinating? And what's happening in neighboring countries? Well, visitors to Thailand will soon have to pay a $14 entry fee, which will go towards the Tourism Transformation Fund. So according to this article in the Bangkok Post, visitors will be charged 500 baht, around $14, which will go towards the Tourism Transformation Fund. And the fund is going to transform the industry with a focus on high value and sustainable tourism. Okay, this is one way to go. Initially, the proposal was for 300 baht, but they jumped this up, and the extra 200 baht will fund projects in the private sector that will help the country restructure for mass tourism. Okay, everybody wants to restructure for mass tourism. Well, allegedly, supposedly, they say they do. Will they? I don't know. So if you're going to be going to Thailand next year, you may be paying an extra $14. Now, that would not stop me. In fact, I would be happy to pay an extra $14 if it was really going to be used for this kind of purpose. And that's something that's been talked about in Bali before. And according to a government spokesman, the goal is to collect 5 billion baht, about $147 million in the first year. They predict that they're going to get 10 million foreign tourists in 2022. Good luck to Thailand in helping transform their tourist industry. And what about Malaysia? Well, according to this article, international borders likely to reopen in December, says the Prime Minister. So, Malaysians wishing to travel abroad can do so in December, probably, according to the Prime Minister. And this will be dependent on getting 90% of adults vaccinated. Completely vaccinated. The Prime Minister said December is possible. It's too early to tell at the moment. State borders will be open first. And I've already talked about that in the previous video. Will Malaysia be open in December? Will we be open in December? I don't know. We're supposed to be open in 2 days to 6 countries or 18 countries. I don't know. Discussion on that coming up. So with 2 days left before the alleged opening to international flights, we still don't have any official documents. available, and there are no details. But here's a new story. Citizens from 18 countries will be able to enter Bali. These are the conditions. So we started out with 6, and now we have 18. So according to this article, 18 countries have been submitted for entering Bali on the 14th. According to the coordinating minister for Maritime Affairs and Investment, our friend Pak Luhut, the opening of international flights to Bali, which will be carried out this week, is expected to be able to gradually restore Bali's economy. The minister said that the selection of countries was carried out taking into account the level of transmission of COVID-19 in the country. Countries that can enter are countries with transmission levels 1 and 2 with a positive rate of below 5%. And what's needed to enter for these 18 mystery countries? Well, pretty much the same as last time. International travelers have to be examined with the PCR test, and it has to be done 3 times 24 hours, otherwise 72 hours before flight time. And the travelers will need to be fully vaccinated. The second dose has to be attained at least 14 days before the traveler enters Indonesia. That, I think, is new. And in addition, according to this article, the quarantine is 5 days, although that has not been officially announced yet, the drop from 8 days to 5 days. And there's a requirement for health insurance of a value of $100,000. It includes payments for COVID-19 coverage. Okay, so that's what you need right now if you're going to come into Bali for one of the 18 countries that nobody knows about. And of course, everybody is talking about the opening. And here's another one. International flights to Bali will open. So the Deputy Speaker of the House, Mohammed Iskander, said that the opening of the international airport in Bali will have a positive impact on tourism. Well, we hope so. And he said that he supports the government's move to reduce the quarantine period from 8 days to 5 days. And Pak Imin, of course, made it to Bali to examine things, as everybody seems to be doing, including the president. And he observed the tourism activities here. And like everybody else, he advised people not to forget to use health protocols, wear a mask, keep your distancing, keep our hands clean. Okay, the hands clean has pretty much gone the way of the dinosaur. Here in Singaraja anyway, almost all of the businesses, well, let's not say that, let's say many of the businesses have hand washing facilities out in front. How many people have I observed using them? Almost none. Well, none. And that includes us now. My granddaughter and myself, we used to wash our hands religiously before we went into stores. We never do it anymore, unless there's somebody out in front saying to do it. Why? Yeah, because we've gotten lax, just like most people. Still wear a mask, still try to social distance, but the hand washing thing has, yeah. And so this is one more important political figure supporting the move from 8 days to 5 days. It seems everybody agrees on that. I don't know why there hasn't been an official announcement yet, with less than 48 hours to go before Bali is supposed to open for international flights. And what about those international flights? And here's another new article from Bali Discovery. Where are the planes in Bali? So the government announced the 14th as the opening date. According to this article, hopeful members of the island's tourism industry are best advised not to hurriedly stand by with bouquets, garlands, and floral leis with which to welcome foreign visitors. Why not? Because there are no planes scheduled to land on the 14th. According to the management company for PHRI, there are no pending requests for flight slots from airlines eager to become the first to enter Bali's international airport. And this includes Indonesia's airlines as well. None of them have requested to be able to fly into PHRI. According to the Director of Operations for PT Angkasa Pura I, Wendu Asro-Rose, the airport is ready and they've done a simulation, but yeah, nobody's in a rush to come here. And we'll talk about the simulation in a minute. According to Asro-Rose, the airlines need time to publicize their activities and tell their customers that PHRI is open. Asro-Rose said That's why we don't have anybody requesting flights. They're not ready yet. And another official from the airport management company, Taufan Yudhistira, confirmed that no airline has requested an international flight slot. And he said, we don't know when that's going to happen. But he did add that the company was waiting for regulations to be issued in connection with the reopening of Bali to international travel from the Ministry of Transportation and the Ministry of Justice and Human Rights. He said that none of these regulations have yet to be provided, so they don't know either. It's not just the public. Nobody seems to know. The article concludes saying that many industry observers doubt that international flights to Bali will resume until rules restricting travel in source countries are loosened and as long as mandatory quarantine requirements in Indonesia remain in place. Okay, so if you're a B211 and you've been one of the people who's been asking, can I get on these flights? There ain't no flights. If I was a B211 and I wanted to get into Indonesia, I would be going through Jakarta and dealing with the quarantine there, because who knows what's happening here right now in Bali. Unless you're really opposed to going through Jakarta and being quarantined there, although the prices there seem to be less than the numbers that have been thrown out, as I mentioned in the last video, but none of that has been confirmed. There is no confirmation on the quarantine airport, quarantine hotels, which ones they are, or prices, just like there is no official news about anything related to the 14th at this point, other than a lot of talk. And another segment on the opening on the 14th tomorrow. And let's see what this one says. The Bali provincial government plans to open tomorrow, right? But does anybody know how many people are going to come? No. The head of the Bali Provincial Tourism Office, Putu Astawa, and talked about him before, doesn't want to make any assumptions about the target number. He says he doesn't know. He's blind about the potential foreign visitors to arrive in Bali. And you remember the other day we were talking about 300,000 people were lined up. Those 300,000 people seem to have vanished. Pak Putu Astawa said, honestly, haven't received any of the information. I'll check the truth. Nonetheless, preparations are being made all over the island in different places. I've heard that there's activity going on in Lovina. I know Kuta, Ubud, everywhere. People are getting ready. And there's some negative news reports about Bali condition. And I don't have time to go into those today because, well, this was full and it's Wednesday afternoon and I've got things to do with my granddaughter who I'm helping with schooling now. And so we'll talk about that on Sunday. So the head of the Bali Provincial Tourism Office said he doesn't know how many people are going to come here and he's kind of in the dark about things. Well, what about this one? This says Bali reopened, 6 countries approved an international travel corridor. Okay, I talked about that the other day. Big deal, right? Well, this is something new. The Tourism and Creative Economy Minister, Pak Sandiaga Uno, said that, yes, we're going to open on the 14th and that there are 6 countries that are permitted to enter Indonesia. And we've talked about that before. And Pak Sandiaga Uno said that we're going to adopt the Phuket Sandbox strategy, and well, we'll see how that works out. But now, in addition to the 6 countries, according to this article, the government is planning to add travel corridors to Hungary, France, Spain, Poland, the Netherlands, Britain, Italy, Singapore, Austria, Germany, Belgium, Australia, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and Russia. So that's 16 more. So 6 plus 16 is 22. Now there's another article that says, Pak Luhut says that there's 18. So far we have 6, 18, and 22. How many people have actually booked hotels? And how many people have actually booked hotels? 0. How many planes are coming in tomorrow, scheduled to come in tomorrow? 0. Confused? Me too. Pak Sandiaga Uno said that the tourism ministry is continuing to coordinate with the health ministry and COVID-19 task force and the foreign affairs ministry in determining and approving which foreign nationals are allowed to enter Bali. And of course, there is the question about will their governments let them leave, or if they are free to leave, how long do they have to quarantine when they get back into their country? And so they got a double quarantine. And we talked about this before. So where are we at today on Wednesday, the day before all the tourists are going to arrive, supposedly. Same place we were at on Sunday, nowhere. And so I just said that there's no hotel bookings. Well, here's an article. Ahead of the opening of foreign tourism, PHRI says there are no bookings. So the deputy head of culture, environment, and public relations of the regional governing body of the Indonesian Hotel and Restaurant Association, that's PHRI, or PHRI, E. Gusti Nurai Surawijaya, said that there are no incoming bookings from the countries that were on the list, the original list of people who were going to be able to come in. And he said that the reason is the 8-day quarantine. He said, no one is booked. The problem is quarantine because there are countries such as Thailand, Maldives, Dubai, Sri Lanka without quarantine. And so this is a competition, as I've said before. And on a personal basis, I was talking to a friend of mine in Turkey yesterday, and he's getting married to his lovely girlfriend on Saturday. And they wanted to come to Bali for a honeymoon. And it would have been cool for me to meet them here. But, well, Turkey's not on the list, and they didn't want to get a B211 because they've only got a week off of work. And even if Turkey had been on the list, 8-day quarantine, not going to work. Where are they honeymooning? The Maldives. I said, is there a problem getting in? Fully vaxxed, we get the test, proves negative, we come in, no problem. Okay, that's what Bali is up against. So Pak Surya Wijaya said maybe 3 days would still be a coincidence. Okay, this is a translation. If it's 3 days, maybe people will come, and then the 4th day they could go on to their destination. So, right, there's the 8 days, as it currently stands, the 5 days, which everybody talks about, but there's been no circular, so there's no official confirmation of the 5 days. And then there was a proposal for 2 days a few weeks ago that I talked about, and now he's saying maybe 3 days. Okay, so we got 8, we got 5, we got 2, 3, and some people that want 0. What is the key word, the thematic word for this confusion? Disorganization. And Pak Suryawijaya added that 8 days of quarantine, tourists have to spend as much as 25 million rupees. And you remember when I was talking about the hotels, this kind of a list that was floated, not official, and looking at 25 million at the top, and 25 million is what, close to a couple $1,000s US. And he said the price is high. It's not only the length of time, but the price is high as well. Not only are there no bookings for the hotels, they're not even sure which hotels are going to be here because there's been no verification of the list. And so he said, in fact, the 62 hotels that applied for verification have not been verified. We haven't verified the 62, and 35 doesn't necessarily use all of them. Are there going to be any official notifications coming soon? And here we are, it's 1:30 on Wednesday, and tomorrow is the 14th. Even if a bunch of circulars come out and make everything official, well, there's no planes coming, nobody's making any bookings, so this is not going to happen on the 14th. It may happen later on. This looks like it's going to be a very slow rollout. And on top of all this, there's some really interesting comments from the governor. Tourism doesn't have many benefits to Balinese residents. Foreign investors enjoy. So the governor said that the benefits of tourism in the island of the gods in Bali does not directly benefit the community, benefits foreign investors. He said this when receiving a working visit from the Indonesian House of Representatives Commission at his office Monday. And this has gotten a lot of feedback, especially from foreigners, many of whom are out. And this happens anytime somebody questions tourism in Bali and how much benefit people are getting here. You're going to get a lot of foreigners who are going to say, fine, we'll go somewhere else if you don't want us. If it wasn't for us, blah, 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 blah. I'm not sure why Koster picked this time to say this. Maybe he's frustrated by the lack of clarity like everybody else is. Maybe he wants people to feel better, like, okay, we have other things besides tourism, because, well, let's see what he says. He said that the pandemic has caused people to go into deep introspection, and especially him, to find out mistakes made in development in Bali. And he said, I constantly evaluate. The biggest mistake in Bali is to rely too much on tourism. What does he have besides tourism? Well, he said he's currently developing an economic concept by utilizing local resources, and this will put tourism in the back of all of these other things. And what are they? Agriculture, maritime and fishing sector, the folk craft industry sector based on the Balinese branding culture, the development of IKM, MSMEs, and cooperative, and the people's economy. The sixth sector is tourism development. He said, in the past, tourism was always placed at the front. Now we put it last. That's pretty intense. So as I said before, there are other things going on here. There's a green industrial park that's supposed to be being developed in Negara, in Jumbrana, and there's the medical tourism that they're talking about, and there's digital nomads and getting that together and getting Indonesians involved in that. There are a number of different schemes to diversify the economy, and is that going to work? I don't know. Is the government going to push that, or is this just something that's been said in frustration, and once people actually do start to come in here, it will all be forgotten, as it usually is. It's time for the wrap-up. Okay, what can I say? There is some disappointment here. It looked like the 14th, everybody was pushing that. Countries were listed, hotels talked about, the process was there. There's been a lot of talk about the quarantine and moving it down from 8 days to 5 days, or how many days. And by the way, there's a document linked below here that is a draft of the process that's going to happen when people arrive here. A very, very detailed one, and it's all in Indonesian. I just don't have time to translate it now and go over it. It's 48 pages. It's very, very detailed. It's not law yet, it's not policy, it's a draft. So I'm not going to talk about that right now. You can take a look at it down below, and if you want to translate it, you can translate it using Google Translate, and you come up with a decent translation. So, we've got all this stuff going on. Everybody was ready, talking about 300,000 people are waiting, and a lot of people sprucing things up. But yeah, it's disappointing because, well, as we've been saying for the last week now, nothing official, no circulars. People keep saying it's going to open on the 14th, but what don't we know so far? Let's take a look at the situation as it exists now, less than 24 hours from the 14th. What don't we know? Okay, we don't know how many countries are involved. Is it 6? Is it 18? Is it 22? Have they been contacted? Do they have a plan? Are they working with the government on bringing people in? I've talked to people in Korea, Taiwan, who's not on the list by the way, Singapore, which is on one list, but was apparently not on another list. Japan, nobody was even aware that Bali is going to be open. So there's not much advertising, not much promotion going on, and we don't have any planes. So what about the planes? Who's coming? What airlines are flying? What routes are they going to take? What cities are they going to leave from? How often are they going to come into Bali? And who can come? Is it only going to be foreign nationals of Japan, say, or can an American who flies in and has a visa already, can they come in? Or can anybody just come in if they fly into Japan and come in directly from Japan to Denpasar? What kind of visa are the people going to have? How much is it going to cost? How long is it going to be for? Will it be renewable? The quarantine, is it 8 days, 5 days, 3 days, 2 days, no days? Are more hotels going to be added to the list that are more budget friendly than some of the ones that were talked about before? And have these hotels officially accepted their designation as a quarantine location? When can you make bookings at the hotel? What kind of food are you going to be able to get there? Some of these questions are answered in this document that I said down there, but that's not official. It's a draft. And if we're going to follow the Phuket model, the Phuket sandbox model, are people going to be restricted to the green zone where they're in a quarantine? So let's say you quarantine in Sanur. Are you going to only be allowed to stay in Sanur? Or can you go from Sanur to Nusa Dua and Nusa Dua to Ubud? And if you do, how do you get from one place to the other? How do you transfer? If you do your quarantine and you test negative and you've been double vaxxed, of course, because you've had to do that to get in, will you be allowed to go anywhere in Bali? What about the Peduli Lindungi app, which the government is counting on to keep track of people and monitor what's going on? That's still not available for many foreigners. Is that going to be fixed? Will there be a different app for tourists to use? Will they need to carry around paper documents if they want to get into a mall, for example? What if you stay at a nice hotel here in Bali and it's a resort type and it's got a swimming pool or 2 swimming pools, a nice garden, maybe a tennis court? Will you be allowed to wander around the grounds and just not leave there? So those are all questions that haven't been answered yet. We don't really know at this point what's going on. We have conflicting statements from different ministers, and nobody seems to be exactly in charge of this. And then the governor, and what's going on in the governor's head with his statements the other day. Okay, so a positive and a negative today. The positive is the numbers are great. They're going down. The weather is fantastic. And the negative, well, the negative is Bali is supposed to open on the 14th and there's no planes, there's no tourists, there's no hotel bookings. What's the famous Indonesian word? Sabar. Be patient. Okay, and as I said, school started, and here is just a little clip of Zoe yesterday coming back from her first day of school, and she was so excited to be back in school. And this is what I've been saying for the last 18 months. School is just not a process of filling kids' heads with numbers and dates. It's a way of relating to people, learning about the world, developing yourself, developing friendships, learning social activities, social niceties, the norms of society, and having friends and having adults that you can respect and you can lean on, and friends who will help you. And so when Zoe got back from school, she was so excited. She was so excited on the way to school, and she was so excited when she got home yesterday. And so at the end of the clip here, she says, "Oh, I can do it, Grandpa." She was doing homework, science homework, and doing it in English. And she speaks English fluently anyway, but not at school. And so she was really excited, and it was just such a great thing to see. And so, yeah, there's good stuff happening here. The tourists will come. This will get worked out eventually. It's frustrating, I know, and disappointing to people that thought that, yeah, they could go back to work, they could open up their businesses. It's going to happen. My feeling is it's going to happen. It's going to happen relatively soon. Still, I've been saying for a long time, December, I would go with December. That's another, 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away. That should be safe. Okay, that's it. I want to wrap this up and get this out because I've got some plans for this evening. And so take care. Be kind to someone today. Thanks for viewing. If you found this useful, please give it a thumbs up, or you can subscribe. I'm working on a new subscribe button, by the way. And thanks for all the comments. Okay, take care. See you on Sunday.
Grandpa!
Hello.
What are you doing?
I'm making fun of my video.
Hello! My name is Zoe! Grandpa, I did it! Grandpa,
You did
I
what?
did it